There comes a moment in every person's life when hoping is no longer enough. You become tired of waiting for signs, tired of wondering if your dreams are possible, tired of measuring your future by your current circumstances. You begin to realize that uncertainty has quietly been directing your life. Every decision has been filtered through doubt. Every opportunity has been examined through fear. Every dream has been delayed because you believed reality had the final word. But what if reality has never been the beginning of the story? What if it has only been the reflection of what you have consistently accepted as true? The greatest transformation begins the moment you stop asking life for permission to become who you are and instead decide within yourself that you already are. That decision changes everything. The world often teaches you to believe after you see results. It says that confidence comes after success, peace comes after problems disappear, and abundance comes after money arrives. Yet if you observe the people who seem to move through life with quiet certainty, you notice something unusual. They do not wait for evidence before they trust themselves. They carry an inner knowing that exists long before anyone else can recognize it. This knowing is different from wishful thinking. It is different from blind optimism. It is deeper than positive words repeated without conviction. Knowing is a settled state. It does not argue. It does not force. It simply exists. Imagine walking into a room where everyone doubts you, but you no longer feel the need to convince anyone. Imagine facing a challenge that once terrified you, yet something inside remains perfectly still. Imagine receiving bad news without allowing it to define your future, because your inner vision is stronger than temporary appearances. That is what knowing feels like. Life responds differently to those who know. When you constantly question your future, your actions become uncertain. Your decisions become hesitant. Your emotions rise and fall with every circumstance. You begin to live as a reaction instead of as a creator. But when certainty becomes your natural state, everything changes. Your words become intentional. Your posture changes. Your choices become clearer. You stop chasing opportunities because your confidence begins attracting them. You stop forcing outcomes because your peace becomes more powerful than your effort. Nothing outside has changed yet. Everything inside has, and everything outside eventually follows. Think about how much energy people spend trying to control the external world. They attempt to manage every conversation, predict every obstacle, and prepare for every possible disappointment. Yet the more they try to control appearances, the more powerless they feel, because appearances are always changing. Real power is discovered when your inner state becomes independent of temporary conditions. If today looks difficult, your knowing remains. If someone misunderstands you, your knowing remains. If progress appears slow, your knowing remains. Your peace is no longer borrowed from circumstances, it comes from identity. Identity is the invisible foundation beneath every visible result. You never consistently experience life beyond the person you believe yourself to be. If you secretly believe you are unlucky, you will unconsciously interpret ordinary events as proof of that belief. If you believe success belongs to others, opportunities will appear intimidating rather than inviting. But the moment you begin accepting a new identity, life gradually reorganizes itself around that acceptance. Not because the universe is playing favorites, because your perception changes, your expectations change, your emotional reactions change, your decisions change. And those changes create entirely different experiences. Many people spend years trying to improve their circumstances while refusing to improve their self-concept. They decorate the branches while ignoring the root. They want different results while remaining emotionally committed to the same identity. Nothing lasting changes that way. A different life requires a different version of yourself, not one created by pretending, but one created by accepting. Acceptance is incredibly powerful. When you truly accept yourself as worthy, you stop chasing approval. When you accept yourself as capable, fear loses its authority. When you accept yourself as abundant, scarcity no longer controls your thinking. The outer world eventually mirrors the inner agreement you have made with yourself. Notice how quickly fear creates convincing evidence. One anxious thought leads to another. Soon every conversation appears negative. Every delay feels personal. Every silence becomes rejection. Why? Because the mind naturally searches for evidence that supports its dominant assumptions. The same principle works in your favor when your assumptions change. If your deepest expectation becomes, everything is always working in my favor, your attention begins discovering opportunities that fear previously ignored. The opportunities were always there. Your awareness simply changed. This is why inner transformation is so much more powerful than external effort alone. Effort without belief feels exhausting. Belief transforms effort into inspired action. You stop pushing, you begin flowing. This does not mean life becomes free from challenges. Every meaningful journey includes moments that test your commitment. The difference is that challenges no longer define your identity, they refine it. A delay is no longer failure, it becomes preparation. A closed door is no longer rejection, it becomes redirection. Temporary uncertainty is no longer evidence that your vision is impossible. It becomes another opportunity to remain faithful to your inner knowing. The strongest people are not those who never experience doubt. They are the ones who refuse to build a home inside it. Doubt may knock. It does not have to move in. There is incredible strength in remaining emotionally consistent while circumstances are inconsistent. That consistency communicates something profound to your subconscious mind. It says, I know who I am regardless of appearances. That message gradually becomes your automatic identity. Then confidence stops being something you practice. It becomes who you are. Notice how children imagine without limitation. They become explorers, inventors, artists, heroes, and leaders within moments. They do not pause every few seconds to ask whether their imagination is realistic. They enter the experience completely. Somewhere along the way, many adults abandon that freedom. They begin asking permission from circumstances before allowing themselves to believe. Yet imagination remains one of the greatest creative powers available to every human being. Every invention existed in imagination first. Every building existed in imagination first. Every achievement existed in imagination first. Everything visible begins invisibly. Your responsibility is not to force the invisible into existence. Your responsibility is to remain loyal to it until it naturally becomes visible. This loyalty requires emotional discipline, not emotional suppression. Discipline. You acknowledge fear without surrendering to it. You recognize temporary disappointment without accepting permanent defeat. You experience difficult moments without allowing them to rewrite your identity. That is maturity. That is mastery. When your inner world becomes stable, external instability loses much of its influence. People may criticize you, your vision remains. Plans may change, your purpose remains. Unexpected obstacles may appear, your knowing remains. Life begins rewarding consistency. Many underestimate the quiet power of expectation. Expectation silently shapes perception. Perception shapes action. Action shapes experience. Experience strengthens belief. The cycle continues. So ask yourself honestly, what have you been expecting from life? Have you expected disappointment? Have you expected struggle? Have you expected rejection? Or have you begun expecting harmony, opportunity, wisdom, abundance, and meaningful relationships? Whatever expectation becomes dominant eventually influences how you experience reality. Choose carefully. The future you desire is not asking you to become someone fake. It is inviting you to become someone fearless enough to accept what has always been possible. Stop measuring your potential by your history. History explains where you have been. It does not determine where you are going. Every sunrise begins a new day regardless of yesterday's weather. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to think differently. You are allowed to believe differently. You are allowed to identify differently. Nothing extraordinary begins with universal agreement. Extraordinary lives begin with private conviction. Before anyone applauds you, you must believe. Before anyone understands your vision, you must believe. Before results become visible, you must believe. Not because belief magically removes every obstacle overnight, but because belief transforms the person who encounters those obstacles. And a transformed person creates transformed outcomes. Patience also becomes easier when you truly know. Impatience is often hidden fear. It whispers, "What if nothing happens?" Knowing answers calmly, it is already unfolding. Notice the difference. One creates tension, the other creates peace. Peace is productive. From peace comes clarity. From clarity comes wise action. From wise action come meaningful results. Everything begins inside. Your conversations with yourself matter more than you realize. Every silent sentence repeated daily becomes part of your identity. If your internal dialogue constantly declares limitation, your emotions eventually agree. If your internal dialogue consistently reflects confidence, gratitude, possibility, and certainty, your subconscious gradually accepts those messages as truth. Speak to yourself as the person you intend to become. Think from your destination rather than toward it. Feel gratitude before complete evidence appears. Carry yourself as someone who already belongs where they are going. This is not pretending. It is preparing. Preparation always precedes manifestation. No athlete waits until championship day to develop discipline. No musician waits until the performance to learn confidence. Likewise, inner certainty is cultivated before outer success becomes visible. There will be days when appearances seem convincing. You may wonder whether your vision is fading. Those are precisely the moments when your inner commitment becomes most valuable. Anyone can believe after receiving proof. True transformation belongs to those who remain faithful before proof arrives. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The opportunity appears, the relationship improves, the financial breakthrough comes. The unexpected solution emerges. Others call it luck. You recognize it differently. You understand that the outer world has finally caught up with the inner world you refuse to abandon. People often celebrate visible success while overlooking the invisible months or years of quiet conviction that preceded it. Yet those unseen moments are where everything truly changed. Never underestimate the importance of your private thoughts. Private thoughts become public experiences. Private beliefs become public results. Private identity becomes public reality. Guard your inner conversations with the same care you would guard your greatest treasure, because they are your greatest treasure. The world will always offer reasons to react. Choose to respond instead. The world will always present temporary appearances. Choose permanent truth instead. The world will always attempt to define you by yesterday. Choose to define yourself by your highest vision instead. You are not powerless before life. You participate in it every single moment through the meanings you assign, the expectations you hold, the emotions you nourish, and the identity you accept. Everything begins there. And once it begins there consistently enough, life has no choice but to express it. So stop asking whether you are worthy. Stop asking whether your dream is possible. Stop asking whether the future can improve. Become the person who already knows. Know that your peace is stronger than chaos. Know that your purpose is greater than delay. Know that your value is untouched by opinion. Know that your future is not imprisoned by your past. Know that every day offers another opportunity to embody the person you have chosen to become. Because certainty is contagious. It transforms your decisions. It transforms your relationships. It transforms your opportunities. It transforms your future. The moment your inner world reaches genuine agreement, your outer world begins moving in the same direction. The bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming is built one unwavering assumption at a time. Walk across that bridge every day without demanding constant proof. Let your thoughts reflect confidence. Let your emotions reflect fulfillment. And let your actions reflect quiet certainty. There is extraordinary power in a mind that has stopped negotiating with fear and started agreeing with its highest vision. The day you truly know, not merely hope, not merely wish, but know that your desired life is already yours in essence. Every choice you make begins carrying that certainty. And when your identity no longer argues with your future, when your heart no longer seeks permission from appearances, When your inner world stands firm, regardless of temporary conditions, life eventually reaches the only conclusion it can. It rises to meet the conviction you have consistently embodied. When you know life has to agree, there is another truth that many people overlook. Your life is not shaped only by the moments when you feel inspired. It is shaped far more by the ordinary moments when no one is watching, the quiet mornings, the silent drives, the evenings when nothing dramatic seems to be happening. Those are the moments when your dominant assumptions are either strengthened or weakened. Ask yourself what occupies your mind when you have nothing demanding your attention. Does your imagination drift toward the life you desire, or does it replay the fears you have already decided you no longer want? Most people unknowingly rehearse the very experiences they are hoping to avoid. They revisit old disappointments, replay uncomfortable conversations, imagine future failures, and then wonder why anxiety feels so familiar. The mind does not become powerful by accident. It becomes powerful through repetition. Repetition is one of the greatest creative forces you possess. Whatever you repeatedly accept eventually feels natural. Whatever feels natural begins expressing itself through your behavior. This is why changing your inner conversations is far more important than changing your temporary mood. Moods come and go. Convictions remain. There will be mornings when you do not feel particularly motivated. That does not matter. Continue thinking from the person you have decided to become. There will be afternoons when unexpected problems interrupt your plans. That does not matter either. Refuse to let temporary events rewrite permanent decisions. Every time you return to your chosen identity instead of reacting to appearances, you strengthen the foundation beneath your future. Strength is not measured by how loudly you speak about your dreams. It is measured by how consistently you protect them within yourself. There is no need to announce every vision before it has matured. Seeds grow best beneath the surface. Their power is not diminished because they are unseen. In fact, the hidden season is often where the greatest transformation occurs. Many people become discouraged because they expect immediate confirmation. They decide upon a new direction on Monday and become frustrated by Friday because nothing visible has changed. Yet every meaningful transformation has an invisible period. During that time, it may appear as though nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, your thoughts are becoming habits, your habits are becoming character, and your character is preparing you for experiences you could not have sustained before. Trust that process. A mountain is not moved because someone shouted at it once. It is shaped over countless seasons by forces that never stop working. In the same way, your identity is not transformed by one inspiring moment. It is transformed by daily agreement with the truth you have chosen to live from. Imagine carrying yourself with such quiet confidence that delays no longer create panic. Imagine receiving criticism without allowing it to become part of your identity. Imagine hearing the word impossible and recognizing that it reflects someone else's limits rather than your own. That kind of freedom cannot be purchased. It is developed from within. There is remarkable peace in no longer needing every circumstance to cooperate before you feel secure. So many people postpone happiness until life becomes perfect. They tell themselves, when I earn more, then I will relax. When I find the right relationship, then I will feel complete. When everyone understands me, then I will be confident. Yet life keeps moving those conditions further away because fulfillment was never meant to depend upon them. Real fulfillment begins now, not because every problem has disappeared, but because you have decided that your inner state will no longer wait for external permission. This decision changes the quality of every experience. Work becomes different because you are no longer working from desperation, but from purpose. Relationships become different because you are no longer seeking validation, but expressing wholeness. Challenges become different because you are no longer interpreting them as evidence against yourself. Even success feels different because it no longer defines your worth. It simply reflects what has already become true within you. Never confuse calmness with passivity. Calmness is one of the strongest expressions of confidence. It is the ability to remain centered while everything around you appears uncertain. Anyone can remain peaceful when conditions are ideal. Inner mastery is revealed when peace survives uncomfortable circumstances. This is why emotional discipline matters so deeply. Your emotions are powerful messengers, but they were never intended to become permanent rulers. They inform you, but they do not have to control you. You can acknowledge fear without becoming fearful. You can experience disappointment without becoming discouraged. You can encounter uncertainty without surrendering your certainty. Each time you make that choice, you remind yourself that your identity is greater than your emotional weather. Storms pass, identity remains. Do not underestimate the influence your expectations have upon other people as well. Human beings constantly communicate through more than words. Your confidence, your posture, your attention, and your emotional consistency all create impressions before you even begin speaking. When you carry genuine certainty, people often respond differently without fully understanding why. Opportunities begin appearing through conversations that once seemed ordinary. Doors open because your presence itself reflects stability. This is not about manipulating others. It is about becoming so aligned within yourself that your interactions naturally change. People trust certainty. People are drawn toward peace. People notice authenticity. You no longer need to convince the world when your life quietly demonstrates what you believe. There is also wisdom in releasing the need to know exactly how every desire will unfold. One of the greatest sources of unnecessary struggle is insisting upon a specific path while ignoring countless possibilities that exist beyond your current understanding. You may imagine one opportunity, while life has prepared something even greater through an entirely different direction. Your responsibility is not to control every detail. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the destination while allowing room for unexpected pathways. Certainty does not demand complete explanations. It simply continues moving forward. Think about the countless moments in your past when life unfolded differently than you expected. At the time, many of those moments may have felt disappointing. Yet looking back, you can often see how they redirected you toward experiences you never would have chosen consciously, but now deeply appreciate. Perspective transforms memory. Faith transforms the future. Carry both with you. Do not allow old labels to follow you into your next chapter. Perhaps you have spent years identifying yourself as shy, unlucky, anxious, unsuccessful, overlooked, or limited. Those descriptions may have explained previous experiences, but they are not permanent definitions. You have the ability to choose differently. The moment you stop introducing yourself to yourself through old limitations, something begins changing. New possibilities become emotionally believable. New actions begin feeling natural. Old habits lose much of their authority because they no longer belong to the person you have accepted yourself to be. Identity always comes first. Behavior follows. Result follow behavior. Your future is quietly waiting for your self-concept to catch up with your deepest potential. Every day offers another opportunity to make that adjustment. Not through force, not through struggle, through agreement. Agree with possibility, agree with abundance, agree with peace, agree with wisdom. Agree with your highest vision of yourself until it becomes more familiar than your former limitations. The day will come when you look back and realize that the greatest miracle was not merely the change in your circumstances. The greatest miracle was the person you became while those circumstances were changing. You developed patience where there had once been frustration. You discovered confidence where insecurity once lived. You found stability where fear once dictated every decision. Those invisible victories become the true foundation of every visible success. Never rush past them. Honor them. Because they are preparing you for everything that comes next. As your awareness deepens, you begin to notice something extraordinary about the way you move through each day. Situations that once stole your peace no longer have the same authority. The opinions that once lingered in your mind for hours now pass by like clouds across the sky. You are not becoming indifferent to life, you are becoming anchored within yourself. There is a profound difference between avoiding the world and no longer allowing the world to determine your state of being. Most people believe that emotional strength comes from building walls around their hearts. Yet true strength comes from building certainty within their minds. A wall isolates, certainty liberates. When you know who you are, you no longer need to defend yourself against every misunderstanding or justify every decision. You understand that not everyone is meant to see your vision at the same time you do. Some people will doubt you because they are measuring your future by your present circumstances. Others will question your confidence because they have never experienced that level of inner conviction themselves. Do not resent them. Every person sees through the lens of their own assumptions. Instead of arguing, continue becoming. Transformation has never depended upon universal approval. The greatest changes often begin in complete silence. There is wisdom in protecting your inner atmosphere. Just as a gardener carefully removes weeds before they overtake healthy plants, you must become aware of the thoughts that quietly compete with your highest vision. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your belief. Not every emotion deserves to become your identity. You have the ability to observe a thought without accepting it. That realization alone changes everything. When a fearful idea appears, you do not have to wrestle with it. You simply recognize it for what it is, a suggestion, not a command. The moment you stop identifying with every passing thought, your mind becomes a place of choice rather than reaction. Imagine living from that place every day, instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" You naturally wonder, "What if everything unfolds even better than I imagined?" Instead of assuming rejection, you expect meaningful connection. Instead of anticipating struggle, you anticipate guidance. Instead of fearing lack, you recognize possibility. This subtle shift changes the quality of your entire life because expectation quietly influences perception. You begin noticing opportunities that were invisible to the anxious version of yourself. You hear encouragement where you once expected criticism. You recognize solutions where you previously saw only obstacles. Nothing magical has happened outside you. Your awareness has expanded, and expanded awareness always creates expanded experience. There is another habit worth releasing forever, the habit of constantly checking whether your desire has arrived. Continually searching for proof often reinforces the feeling that something is missing. When your attention remains fixed upon absence, you unknowingly strengthen the experience of waiting. Instead, become occupied with the person you are becoming. If you were already living the life you desire, how would you think today? How would you speak to people? How would you carry yourself? How would you make decisions? How would you respond when unexpected challenges appeared? The answers to those questions reveal the identity that deserves your daily attention. Do not wait for the future to give you permission to embody those qualities. Practice them now. Every moment you think from your desired identity, instead of merely thinking about it, you shorten the distance between imagination and experience. Life is remarkably responsive to consistency. It is not the occasional inspired day that changes your direction. It is the ordinary Tuesday when nothing exciting happens, yet you remain faithful to your vision. It is the quiet evening when doubt whispers, yet you choose confidence again. It is the unexpected setback when you refuse to abandon your inner agreement. Those moments rarely receive applause, yet they build the character capable of sustaining extraordinary outcomes. There is something deeply peaceful about no longer feeling rushed. Urgency often comes from believing that fulfillment exists somewhere outside the present moment. But genuine certainty carries an entirely different rhythm. It knows that every meaningful experience unfolds in its proper season. It does not confuse delay with denial. It understands that preparation is just as valuable as arrival. Think of an architect designing a magnificent building. Long before anyone admires the finished structure, careful attention is given to the foundation. No one celebrates the concrete beneath the ground because it remains unseen. Yet without that invisible work, the visible beauty could never endure. Your inner life is that foundation. Every thought aligned with confidence adds another layer of strength. Every decision made from peace reinforces stability. Every act of gratitude deepens your awareness of abundance. Eventually, what has been built within becomes impossible to hide. People often ask how to recognize genuine confidence. It is surprisingly quiet. It does not compete for attention. It does not require constant recognition. It does not become offended when others succeed. Genuine confidence understands that another person's blessing does not diminish its own future. Scarcity compares, certainty celebrates, fear competes, confidence creates. The more deeply you accept this truth, the lighter your journey becomes. Comparison begins disappearing because you understand that your path has never been meant to imitate anyone else's. You stop measuring your progress against another person's timeline. You recognize that every meaningful vision has its own unfolding, and your responsibility is simply to remain loyal to it. Freedom begins the moment comparison ends. There is incredible peace in allowing someone else to shine without questioning your own light. You were never designed to become someone else's reflection. You were created to become the fullest expression of the unique qualities already placed within you. Honor them, develop them, trust them. One of the greatest misunderstandings about growth is believing that confidence means never experiencing uncertainty. In reality, confidence often walks directly through uncertainty without surrendering to it. Courage is not the absence of uncomfortable feelings. Courage is the decision that your highest vision deserves greater loyalty than your temporary emotions. Every meaningful accomplishment has required someone to continue before complete evidence appeared. Every lasting relationship has required trust before guarantees existed. Every meaningful dream has required someone to believe beyond what circumstances seemed willing to promise. That same invitation is before you now, not tomorrow, not someday, today. Each ordinary day offers countless opportunities to strengthen the identity you have chosen. Every conversation allows you to respond differently. Every challenge invites a new interpretation. Every decision becomes another vote for the person you are becoming. Never underestimate the power of those small choices. A river does not carve through stone because of one powerful moment. It shapes the landscape through continual movement. Likewise, your life is transformed through steady agreement with your highest understanding of yourself. If you remain faithful to that agreement, there will come a point when your old way of thinking feels unfamiliar. You will notice yourself responding calmly to situations that once created anxiety. You will recognize opportunities where you previously expected disappointment. You will naturally speak with greater conviction because certainty has become part of your identity rather than a temporary practice. This is how true transformation reveals itself. It feels natural, not forced, not artificial, not performed for others, simply natural. The version of you that once struggled to believe begins fading quietly into memory. In its place stands some who no longer waits for the world to announce their value. Someone who no longer negotiates with fear every time a challenge appears. Someone who understands that peace is not the reward at the end of the journey, but the companion that walks beside them throughout it. When you reach that place, life itself begins reflecting the stability you have established within. Circumstances become less intimidating because they no longer possess the power to define you. Opportunities become easier to recognize because your attention has shifted from limitation to possibility. Even unexpected changes lose much of their ability to disturb your peace because your confidence no longer depends upon perfect conditions. You begin living from an entirely different foundation. And from that foundation, every step carries a quiet authority that cannot be manufactured, borrowed, or taken away. So as you leave here today, remember this one truth above all others. Your life will never consistently rise above the identity you consistently accept. The world is always responding to the story you tell yourself, the meaning you assign to every experience, and the certainty you carry when no one else can see what you see. Stop waiting for perfect conditions before you decide who you are. Stop asking tomorrow to give you the confidence that can only be chosen today. Become unwavering in your vision. Become disciplined in your thoughts. Become faithful to the future you have already accepted within yourself. There will be moments when appearances try to convince you to give up. There will be delays that test your patience, voices that question your direction, and circumstances that seem to contradict everything you believe. But never forget that temporary appearances are not permanent truth. Hold your inner conviction with calm confidence. Return again and again to the version of yourself who already walks in peace, already thinks with abundance, already acts with purpose, and already knows that every step is leading exactly where it should. The greatest victory you will ever achieve is not over circumstances. It is over the doubts that once lived within you. The moment you master your inner world, the outer world begins to rearrange itself in ways you could never have forced through fear or struggle. Your confidence becomes your compass, your imagination becomes your blueprint. Your unwavering belief becomes the invisible force that shapes visible results. So walk forward with certainty, speak with intention, think from your highest vision rather than your present conditions. Refuse to surrender your peace to temporary appearances. Let every decision, every thought, and every action declare that you already know who you are and where you are going. Because the day you truly stop hoping and start knowing, the day your inner world stands in complete agreement with your highest vision, the day you refuse to let fear have the final word, is the day everything begins to change. When your heart knows, your mind believes, and your actions reflect that certainty, life can no longer continue reflecting the person you used to be. It must respond to the person you have chosen to become. And when you know, life has to agree.